Welcome to an Australian Phenomics video on how to use the Assays database. Let's start by creating a new assay. The mandatory fields are assay name and species. All other fields are optional. As you can see, by choosing different species, you get different fields. For humans, there is the RS number field that will be used to automatically populate other details such as the chromosome and the gene name. For mice, the field muster assay names is important for linking to muster and can be comma delimited. Now that we have finished saving the assay, let's start adding some protocols. The mandatory fields are name and type. Depending on what type you choose, different options will be available. If the assay is a validation assay, then the checkbox must be ticked as the system would treat the assay differently. There are three states for protocol status: draft, active, and inactive. Only the active protocols will be visible to technicians. Now we can start adding some primers. Usually primers will have a naming convention depending on the type of assay that is being created. If the assay relies on diluted stock sample, then click the plus button, again populating the concentration fields. We repeat the process by adding additional primers. As our third primer, we'll create something called a common primer that is shared across many other assays. If you were to create a new assay, then this common primer would be available from a drop-down list. Next, let's add some control samples. Some control samples can be shared across different assays. If that's the case, then we can tick the checkbox is common sample. Rather than creating a new control sample, you can also use some existing ones by expanding the list and ticking the reuse checkbox. Now moving on to reagents, you can quickly populate your reagents from an existing preset. To do that, select the preset from the drop-down menu and click Populate. You can see that the page has refreshed with the Amplifor reagents and their volumes. If you have reagents specific to the assay, you can click the Add button to add an additional row. Finally, we can specify the details of our PCR program. Once we are done, click Save. You can see the protocol details have now been saved. Now we are ready to set up our primer mix details by clicking on the Create Primer Mix button. Here you have the option of specifying which primers you want to add to the primer mix. By default, the system will add the first primer. For each primer, specify the volume to be added and the mix concentration. To add more primers to the mix, simply click the Add button and select a primer from the drop-down menu. Furthermore, the system will not allow you to add the same primer more than once. As you can see, the primer mix has now been saved. You can attach any file to the protocol by clicking on the paperclip icon. A title can be given along with any comments. Also, you can add as many attachments as you like. Scrolling to the bottom, you can see that the attachments are now shown and available for download. Next, we need to allocate our primers to their storage locations. To do that, click the Allocate Storage link. You will be redirected to the sample storage database where you may be required to log in. Opening our workspace, we can see that all the stock and diluted primers, primer mix, and control samples have been added, ready to be assigned to their locations. Going to the tree view, let's find a box to allocate our samples. To allocate a sample from the workspace, you can drag and drop into the box. Going back to our assay protocol, we can refresh the page to view the updated sample locations. To view the sample, simply click on their location. The box view will appear with the highlighted sample. Now let's say the first design didn't work too well and you want to try a different design. You can click the copy button to create a new protocol and make some minor adjustments. You can see now that we have two protocols with the same details. Click the Edit button on the second protocol. You can see straight away that most of the details have been copied over except for primer mixes.